Welcome to the Necessity Talk Show. Today we have a very special episode. We're in the heart of downtown Lancaster at the Red Rose Bookstore with Teddy himself. Teddy, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, man.
How you doing? Ted Boucard, co-owner of Red Rose Books, representative of Lancaster City Alliance, and also the Lancaster community in general. And happy to be here. Happy to do this.
Yeah, man, we're happy to have you here. So let's just get into it, man. Tell us about your upbringing and did you read a lot as you were a kid?
I didn't read a lot growing up. I like to write a little bit more so than read and stuff like that. But as I got older, there were a lot of people around me who liked to read. So I think that was kind of like a big influence on me as far as just like a lot of my mentors, like my dad or the people that I worked with, they were telling me like, hey, you should always just, keep pushing your knowledge and just keep on keeping literature next to you. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what led you down the path of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so my dad was an entrepreneur, his dad was an entrepreneur and stuff like that, and just people in general. But the thing about them is nothing disrespectful to them, but they weren't always like, it was kind of a couple year thing and that's it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a full-blown continuous, full-blown process or something like that, or like something they kept on going and keeping it alive. And so for me, it was more so, okay, I want to do that, but on a bigger stage and continue to keep doing it every year. So, and see if I can get better making whatever it is, whether it be a bookstore, whether it be a different business, if I can keep building on it. So,
is this your first business?
It is, yeah.
Got you. And how has it been so far?
It's been amazing, yeah.
Amazing?
Yeah.
What were some of the beginning roadblocks that you faced when you were trying to get it to what it is today? And how did you overcome those roadblocks?
A lot of the roadblocks was just like not knowing what to do as far as anything to do. I had a minor in restaurant business, but that didn't really correlate to a retail business. Some issues was just like first steps. So when we went into this, we had no business background. All we had were people who possibly did a business, people who could give us some tips. So we didn't know how to sign up for a DBA, how to sign up for a business license. We didn't know how to find an accountant. So those were a lot of big issues for us. Finding what's the right bank to deal with, to partner up with, what money machine like a Square or something like that to use. So those were a lot of the big obstacles we started off with. Like our first opening weekend, I think Liz was away on vacation and it was just me. We had no Square thing. We had just a register and that was it. And I was going raw. So it was scary, but we made it through.
Yeah. So backtracking just a little bit, have you always been interested in the idea of owning a bookstore?
I'm gonna be honest, for me personally, the bookstore hasn't always been in my mindset. I've always just wanted to create like a space where I could promote other people and also bridge gaps in a sense. So my partner Elizabeth, also co-owner of the bookstore, she's always wanted a bookstore since she was a little girl. So she's always written stuff down in her diaries and her notebooks and stuff like that. But me, myself, I just wanted to create something. And it kind of worked with as far as our mindset. She's very much also about the community, about the people. So we were able to kind of put both of our ideas together and just make it one.
What were some of your driving forces to push you forward during the tougher times of setting everything up and getting to where you are?
Yeah. So when we opened up, this was during the smack down in the middle of pandemic. So everything was closed at the time. Give you a little background. We took over this space from another gentleman named Tom. He had a vintage antique store. So when he was open, this was during the time where the lockdown was, so places weren't supposed to be open. And so we had seen that he was closing up. And I was my career background before this was in culinary arts. And so I had been doing that for almost half a decade. But as I was moving up through my career at that time, it just was getting a little bit more political, and the passion wasn't there as much. You know what I mean? I felt like, okay, I've been talking about I want to do something that can help people, bridge gaps, make a difference. And culinary is very much an art, but I didn't feel like I was doing what I loved. And knowing that I wasn't doing that, and I was just kind of essentially working like a 9-to-5 or in that type of line, that pushed me to be like, okay, I got to do something more. And so when the opportunity arose for us, it was kind of like, it wasn't even I didn't have to think about it too much. It's kind of like, let's just do this. Let's make it happen.
And going back to that, that time where you guys were first opening, were there any doubts? And how were you able to, keep a strong mind and able to get through that?
Yeah, I mean this very humbly. There really were no doubts. It's crazy to think about. Like, you know, I it was great what I was doing, and I was really good at it. Like I said, when you lose a little bit of passion, and you're itching to do something else, you're not even thinking about the doubts. Liz also had a really good job too. She was working for a company I won't name, but she just wasn't happy. You know, she was working in finance, really cool job outside of college, but it just wasn't what she expected. And so when you have someone who is losing a little bit of passion of what they're supposed to be doing, right? You have someone who is not happy in their job. As far as doubts, you don't really have any doubts because you've already been kind of your back's pushed against the wall. You've already don't like what's happening. So for us, it was like the only doubts you really had is like, okay, this might not be successful. But to be honest, we lost those doubts also because we were like, hey, we're really young now. So any risk we make now, it's like we can make up for it later down the line. So it really wasn't too many doubts in the beginning.
Yeah. What are some of the like most, what's the word, like fulfilling parts of like having a a bookstore for the culture?
Yeah. A fulfilling part of it is, you know, we had this one lady named Jessica who comes in, and she's all from Delaware, and she came in and said, you know, this is the first time I've gone to a bookstore, let alone black-owned or black and brown-owned bookstore, where I felt like I can be cozy. And I'm not just black and brown, but just bookstore in general, where I can feel I can come in here, I'm cozy, and it's not like a corporation feel, like a Barnes & Nobles, where it's like no one really cares about me when I'm coming in. When you come into our store, it's like we're saying, hey, hello, how are you? You know, we're checking in, or we're even change the question, like, hey, how's your week been? Are you enjoying this weather? Are you enjoying, where's your mental out? You know what I mean? We're trying to make sure we're engaging with you in a very home type feel. And yeah, I think that's really important. As far as like the people that we impact, it's like we get a lot of tourism. I'm sure you know, as far as Lancaster is really growing every year. And it's annoying when people come here also, and it's like, I was here last year, do you remember me? It's like, no, I don't remember you, but you guys did this for me, and then it changed my life. And it's just like, you just came into a bookstore looking for a book, and you have that memory to come back here a year later and be like, wow, you guys changed my day so drastically that I want to come back here and talk to you guys. So that's really cool.
So about the books that you bring in here, is there like a filtration process, or do you just welcome any kind of book, or are you guys kind of selective about the books that you house in here?
Right. So we're not too selective. Everything is curated by myself and Elizabeth. We first started off bringing mostly like vintage, special editions, first editions, rare editions. But kind of like I was speaking on before, we have, Lancaster being Lancaster, we have so many different kinds of demographics of people coming through. So now we kind of filter it out where it's just like different like main genres, where it's ethnicity based, nature, classics, history, but pretty much a little bit of everything for everybody.
And just personal, what's your favorite type of book to read?
I usually go for more of the sociology, psychology, black authors, a little bit of classics, but also maybe not self-help, but more like motivational type books as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about yourself?
Me? I read a lot of like self-improvement, a lot of like self-mastery type books. At the moment, growing up, I didn't like to read at all. Like it was when I would get in trouble, my dad would say the only way I get off of punishment was when I would finish a Harry Potter book. Okay. So that's how I read the whole Harry Potter series, because I just stayed in trouble. So
I got you.
So yeah, so at first it was like, reading wasn't necessarily like, or at least I thought like reading wasn't necessarily for me. And because like in school it would be like you were giving a book to like read and like write a report, so I was like, oh, this is homework. Yeah. And it wasn't until after I graduated high school that I started to understand that there's like certain books that you can read and like you can really learn from. Yeah. And it's like, they're actually really practical, and like they can help you like in your everyday life and like in other aspects. My brother and my dad are very vivid like readers. They love like sci-fi. Like my dad's favorite series is like Dune, and he's like read all those, and The Wheel of Time. And like my brother, he loves those fantasy books as well. That's just an area I haven't gotten to yet. But yeah, so at the moment, I currently read like mainly like self-help, self-mastery, like books about filmmaking, like screenwriting, and like Save the Cat and stuff like that. So
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I'm reading now. I noticed that there's a lot of art around the store, and you say that you're for pushing community like pushing community like
collaborations
and stuff. How are you guys going about that, like community collaborations? How do you collaborate with the community around Lancaster?
Yeah, so as far as like the local artists is really nice is there's a lot of artists in Lancaster.
Yeah.
But something that like a lot of our closer friends will tell us, it's hard to get their works inside other places because usually there's like a 2-year wait. Mm-hmm. And we don't really go out searching for people. We make it really well known in our social medias that hey, we allow artists in our space. So if you're a local artist and you're like, let's say within a 30-mile radius or 30-minute radius, like come by, like let's see if we can get you in here. So we don't really go out searching for people. We just let people know like, hey, we take an artist, and people can let us know if they want to get in here. But we have a nice system where it's like it's a 6-month system. That way we get you in here, but it also gives people a chance a later part of the year to get in here also. Mm-hmm. And it's up to you at the end of the year if you want to kind of stay with us or just move on to a different space or something like that. Mm-hmm. But same thing with that with local authors, local artists, and artists in every kind of way. Whether it's just like you're a painter, whether you're a photographer, we want to kind of get you in here and showcase your stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
As a business owner, and in like the heart of like downtown, have you ever like faced any experiences that made you question like are you sure that you're doing the right thing? And in that situation, how have you been able to like steer back onto the right path and like kind of ground yourself and make sure that you're saying like, yeah, I am in the right spot, if that's happened?
Yeah, I'd say in the first year, the first year is the scariest in a sense. And I like for us, we don't look at everything as it has to be like the money situation, right? But we have to take back money to feed ourselves, feed our family and stuff like that. So seeing at times where, our slow season, I'll be very candid with you, like our slow season is the beginning of the year. So January, February, March. And our first full year of being in business, it was like dead season, and we were having snowstorms, and it was kind of like, oh, we're not producing, like no one's coming out, and it's like that's a real life thing you need to look at and be like, okay, so what do we do now? And so looking at that, it's like, okay, well, if we're gonna be having winter seasons every year as we should, that's something that we need to keep in mind of. So I'll be honest, and it's nice having a partner in a business because when one of you is kind of freaking out, the other one kind of keep you level-headed. So I know there are times where I'm like, hey, what are we doing? We gotta like think of different ways. But the nice thing about Elizabeth and I, we're both really good creators and innovators. You know what I mean? We're always thinking of something to bring in people in and to keep the flow going as far as money and just people in general. So we were able to find different ways as far as opening up or starting a affiliate website where people can buy books from us if they're home and there's a snowstorm. You know what I mean? You don't need to come into the store to buy books from us now. We can just ship it right to your house and easy peasy with a click of a button. And yeah, so just going through that, but knowing like, okay, well, those 3 months that we're not making or not seeing a lot of foot traffic, okay, we have to be better the rest of the year. And having that first year and being able to do that really helped us just like push away that mindset of, okay, that's a scary timeline. And just being more so like, hey, we can get through it to the rest of the year.
Yeah, and that actually kind of pushes into my next question. Like, how do you guys make sure, like, especially as a bookstore, you guys have like your thing, like you guys give books. Mm-hmm. How do you make sure that you guys are staying fresh and make sure that you guys are innovating in the space?
Yeah. So one thing one of my mentors told me when we first started is just because we're a bookstore does not mean we have to pigeonhole ourselves to just selling books. You know what I mean? And that goes for any business. You know what I mean? I want to let anybody know who's an entrepreneur, like whatever business you have, especially if you have a brick and mortar space, you don't just need to do whatever your main thing is. That is not the case. Just because we're a bookstore doesn't stop us from doing what we can. It doesn't stop us from doing book clubs. It doesn't stop us from doing open mics. It doesn't stop us from doing single mixers. And so, for example, like we'll do single mixers as far as we did a collaboration with Lancaster Pride. And so that was a place where we gave the LGBT community a space where they can meet each other and kind of just mingle a little bit, you know what I mean? And not only is that cool for the community, it's also cool for when they come to our space, they're like, oh, we're meeting people, but also, okay, now I've been in the bookstore. I've never been here before. Now this is a great space and I had a great time. Now I can come back and tell my friends about. And those little things. So when we're doing events, I saw one of your interviews you did with Wednesday, right? So Wednesday we did a collaboration last year where we were doing Ripple Lounges, and so doing that also gives us a lot of more, what do you call it, showcasing and stuff like that, where people who are coming in for those Ripple Lounges, now they're like just here for the show, but they're like, oh, there's books here. Let me come back and remember that this bookstore is here when I'm coming downtown.
Yeah.
So different events, different book clubs. I was telling you about the affiliate website that we have, and that also helps big time as far as keeping the flow of everything going.
How valuable would you say is like mentorship in like having a a goal or a business in that sense?
I would say it's huge. Oh, it's huge if you can trust that person. You know what I mean? If you feel like you can't, there's an inkling of deceit or you can't trust them, then it's not. But if you feel you genuinely feel like you can trust them, I feel like it's huge. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the mentorship that we had, for the people giving us chances and leading us in the right paths. So yeah. And that's another reason why I talk about community oriented, is because I want to put back what people gave us. I talk about the guy who had the space before us. He gave us a chance. You know what I mean? He gave us the opportunity of being like, hey, I'm going to close here soon, so do you guys want to take over the space? Why not? So yeah.
What would you say is some of the most rewarding aspects of owning this bookstore, especially in such a great location?
I would say it's a few different things. We have it anywhere from the local artists that we come in here, just to see how excited they are to be. I think when people come into a space and they don't know the owners or they don't know the people working there, it's a little scary at first. So it's like, we're very approachable people. So people come in here like, hey, so I have this book, and then you can tell like they're nervous, and it's like, hey, it's all good. Like we're just here, we're just chilling. Like we're not gonna chew your head off. This ain't school. So it's nice. It's nice when you break down those walls. We bring them in for a little chat, and it's like, oh wow, this is really smooth. Like this is a lot smoother than I thought. And that feeling of like, we always do a thing at the end of our meetings with somebody, if they're bringing them in the store. It's like, hey, how did you feel after all this? And it's consistently, I felt great. You guys have made this smooth transition. I'm excited for it. That was one of the things when I was talking back about people who have been in the store, let's say a year ago, when they come back the next year, it's like, hey, do you remember me? Like I was here last year and you guys were awesome. Like you guys give me a free sticker or something like that. Those type of things. Even just like finding a book for somebody, there are people who come in like, hey, what do they think you have this one book? And being a used bookstore, it's not like we have 10 of the same book. You know what I mean? We have maybe 1, 2 extra copies, if that. So when you get somebody who's a tourist who comes here out of the whim, hey, we're just here for the weekend, we heard about Lancaster, we want to stop here, and they come and find a book that, let's say they read when they were a kid, let's say they're 45 years old, they read this book when they were 15 or something like that. That feeling itself, when you have that nostalgia factor, and it's like, whoa, I have that. So those things right there.
As a black man in particular, why do you believe that it's important to have a bookstore and to make sure that there are resources like this in our community?
Yeah, I think, and I'll speak more so to like my experiences growing up. My parents really wanted me to read a lot, but I feel like when I was going to school, it wasn't brought into us as being a cool thing. You know what I mean? Brought into me to being cool. And even like when I think about like book fairs and stuff like that, it was such a thing where like you had all those like the cool stickers, you had the cool pencils, and you wanted those things. But like let's say your parents are working now, they can't chip in and give you money, or like let's say it's like they can't afford to give you money for the books. And it's like remembering those times, it made literature and the idea of books not as pleasing to me. But now being in my position that I'm in now, I can change that mindset for other people. I think it's important to change that mindset, because I still, when I look, us being in this location, we have a great location where we can see people who are passing by. And the amount of black people that I see come by and they think about it, it's like, no, I'm not going to go in there. And it's like, what is stopping you from like, what can we do to make that, all right, let's bring you in here fully, you know what I mean? And I think it's huge. I think there are so many kids who'll be able to just go out further. I'm not saying like books are what you need to get further, but I'm saying, let's say there's that mindset where it's not cool or fun to be in a bookstore or fun to be around literature. We can change that mindset where you can find something cool for yourself. We have, shout out to my brother where he's really into fashion right now. You can find love into reading a book about fashion to educate yourself, but also just to enjoy it. You have people who the anime scene is a huge thing right now, right? It's growing. Back when we were younger, it'd be like, oh, are you listening to anime? Are you reading anime? Like that was a wild thing to do now, but now we're seeing it everywhere, you know what I mean? We're really seeing it everywhere, and it's growing, and it's now, like those kids now who were being made fun of, now it's like, or joked upon it. You know, now you can come out here in the light. Now it's a thing now. You know what I mean? Now we're pushing, we're vocalizing it. So like stuff like that. This kid, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you're good.
Yeah,
that was
okay,
good.
okay.
It's great.
Yeah.
And finally, what would you say? Like, what type of advice would you give to anybody who's looking to start a business, or you know, maybe even enter like the bookstore business, or like embark on their entrepreneurship journey? What advice would you give to that person?
Yeah, I'd say come into everything as if it's your first time. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to learn something. And you really got to come into it with authenticity and being genuine. Whether it's the bookstore, whether it's a business, like if you're not real to yourself, it's not. It's like, what are we actually doing? You know what I mean? I think the biggest thing that Liz and I try to extrude is how authentic we are and how genuine we are. Because I feel we talk about things like we used to watch when we were getting older. It's like we used to watch a lot of movies about people having business and being kind of scummy and stuff like that. I want people to know, like, you can run a business without being scummy. You can run a business by being real to yourself and true to the people around you and people that you want to showcase and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, thank you very much, man. This has been a
guy.
great talk. A pleasure. Go ahead, shout yourself out. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah. So just check us out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Red Rose Books. Find us out on YouTube on Red Rose Book TV, Red Rose B TV. And check us out at 23 North Prince Street, Lancaster, PA 17603. My name is Teddy Boucard. My partner is Elizabeth Peters, and we are the co-owners of Red Rose Books.
Dope. Thank you very much,
Appreciate
man.
you,
I
buddy.
appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yep.
That was great.